So let me invite the CEOs, the moderator, to please come up on stage. And just as we did with business model innovation, the INSEAD faculty member has laid out the broad phenomenon, the importance. And here we have really an extraordinary group of leaders leading mid-sized companies, driving the kind of success that you see in that data. Very good. And so it's my pleasure to hand over to Stefan, a board member at EVN. In your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here, and congratulations to INSEAD for doing this conference, especially also with this title, because the Austrians here in the audience know that we are struggling exactly with the feeling that Europe works, and it's very good if we use this day today and to highlight where we are good. We've seen during the day already a couple of lectures making the point that Mittelstand as a mid-sized company is doing better than maybe other structures. And therefore, it's great for me also to present you representative of the Austrian Mittelstands company. Cornelius at the beginning said, first we have to define what is Mittelstand, then we decided we leave this topic open, because Mittelstand in Germany with a 3 billion revenue company is completely something different than on the Austrian size. Yeah? So we agreed that Mittelstand is not defined only by size. But as we have seen before, Professor Jimeno made the point that there are some credentials, characteristics of Mittelstand, successful Mittelstands company. So there's obviously a strong entrepreneurial person or family. There's a high degree of specialization in the products and services. There's a focus on innovation, on continuing technical progress. There's qualified staff, which will be one of our main topics. There's a global orientation, and there's a high proximity to their customers. So first of all, I want to introduce you the persons which are here. Georg Kapsch, President of the Federation of Austrian Industry and CEO of Kapsch AG. Cornelius Grupp, Chairman and CEO of KAG Holding. Peter Mitterbauer, Chairman and CEO of Miba AG, and Wolfram Senger-Weiss, Managing Director of Gebrüder GmbH. I would like to start with you, Wolfram. You're probably representing not only one of the most international transport businesses in Austria, but also one of the longest existing companies in Austria, with your roots dating back around 500 years. So how can a company like yours be successful for such a long time?
So first of all, perhaps I'd say a couple of words. Thanks for this nice introduction of being one of the most international freight forwarding company. We are a freight forwarding company. We are in transport and logistics for more than 500 years, which is, makes it rather unique, have a company which is in the same business for such a long period. Today, we have about 6,000 employees, and we work in 30 countries around the globe, and do about 1.3 billion in revenues. So Austrian Mittelstand, small German Mittelstand. The question is, what does 500 years help in today's business? Because you have to compete today, in today's world. You have to be successful with everybody else out there, despite the fact how long they're out there. So history is a good base to build on, but it is nothing more really to leverage on. So you have to really find ways how to innovate and to become up to state at any time of the period of the development. We have heard some things this morning, what is important for the 21st century, sustainability, reputation, inspiring your people, and so on. This is true for us for the last, I don't know, 500 years, but the last period. So, you know, these things for family-owned businesses have always been important. And this is something which helped us carrying over such a long period. You know, reputation, think about your community, to attract good people in your area, to attract good people that stay with you all their life, because this is the old model if you have companies, especially in the more rural areas. So this is one of the strategies we have. Perhaps I add 2 or 3 more things. I mean, what I think and a big advantage to Mittelstand is not a very deep layer, so there is a quick decisions and fast access to the owners. So this helps to change also. There are a lot of ideas that come up, but you have to create a culture that helps you with trust and with the ideas coming all the way up. And probably one last point I want to make, because should you always be first mover? You know, for a company that is out there for such a long time, we have been discussing this for quite a long time also within our family and management board. And actually, we found out we're actually more like a second mover. So, you know, when you're out there long term, probably being second mover is better than being the first mover out there.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. You're representing the third generation of entrepreneurial Mitterbauer family. Your grandfather started a repair and production shop for engineering components more than 80 years ago. Today, Miba is a leading supplier for automotive construction and energy industry and operates in 22 sites worldwide. So regarding this kind of staff, loyalty, qualification, is that a major topic for the success of your family's enterprise?
Yes, it is. As you said, my grandfather founded 88 years ago when he was 21 years old. He actually overtook a repair workshop for engines, and he was an apprentice. And only after World War II, he started manufacturing engine bearings, which is quite a critical component for an engine, because he didn't get these components on the spare part market. And what is highly critical for us, it is this what we call apprenticeship program. So 1/3 of our blue-collar workers in Austria active today have started their career as apprentices within our company. And over the years, we always say my grandfather was the apprentice number one. We have trained some more than 1,200 apprentices since that time. And this kind of dual education, what we have here in Austria and also in Germany, at least I can talk for our company, it is highly critical, and this is the real backbone that we can make this precision and this quality and this diligence what our customers in the automotive and other industries expect from us. And what we are also doing, you mentioned that we are invited, if I may say so, from our customers to join them in the automotive industry to other countries such as China or the United States or Slovakia. So we are exporting in an adapted way this dual education program also to our sites abroad. And to give you an idea, it was just last year when we brought this model to Slovakia. We have 2 plants there with 1,500 people, so it's quite an important country for us. And we also helped the government of Slovakia to introduce this adapted version in the Slovak parliament. And interestingly, they were so interested and curious that they have implemented that in 1 year. So I would be curious how long it would have lasted in a country such as Austria till this would have been implemented. So what do I say with that? We bring it in for our need because our customers expect it, but we adapt it slightly. And the Slovak model is slightly different to what we are now trying to do also for China and the United States.
Okay. Thank you. Cornelius, you mentioned before you're already in the 6th generation of entrepreneurial personalities, but you have built up a conglomerate yourself by broadening your interests in different industries, and you are now active from glass products to reinforcement fabrics to lightweight aluminum roofs. From your point of view, if you look on these activities and your experience, what makes Mittelstand's company really successful, especially in the environment of Germany, Austria, or Switzerland?
The question is, of course, first, I have to correct you. It's very important because you said our company is called CAC, It's here in Austria, in the German-speaking area, it's not a good expression.
Okay. I'm sorry for that.
It's actually called CAG. I mean, so, I would say, first of all, what it makes in general is, I can only talk about what it makes in our group.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. So, we are, first of all, these companies have the same owner. This is something.
You.
Okay. Secondly, of course, we are manufacturing animals, so we manufacture. And also, we have a very decentralized sort of organization, in contrary to other companies who have a very central organization. And for that reason, of course, we need really entrepreneurs. We need entrepreneurial spirit of each of the guy who or the lady who runs the companies. And the other thing is, of course, we bought mature companies, mainly, because we cannot compete always, with capital, because there are always much richer, wealthier people around. So we have to think, how can you bring forward mature companies and upgrade them, and how can you do that better than with an entrepreneurial spirit? The other thing is, we always started in niches, and we started in Europe and in Western Europe. And people would be sort of training themselves in these difficult situations in Western Europe. But then, of course, you have to compete on cost. So in Europe, we have a fantastic situation. I think much better than the Americans with Mexico. Of course, we had for long periods now, we had Eastern Europe. And for that reason, I think the second step was then going to Eastern Europe to compete on cost. And then the third step is then, of course, to talk about internationalization. I mean, I'm personally not really interested to manufacture in South America. Why would I? Why? It's only because our customers are really calling us in. They want us to be in South America or in China or what have you. And then, of course, also when you are there, let's say, go to China, they don't talk about localization or so. They wanted to have a deep localization. That means you have to do everything you do in the value chain, everything there. And they couldn't give a damn about any other areas. Only we have to, because we follow our customers. Then, of course, in Europe, with this training period, when our people are there and developing themselves, they create and they develop flexibility. And then, with this flexibility, which you have to have in Europe, it's one market, it's true, but it's many, many different attitudes. Bulgaria is really different than Sweden. So the thing is, I think this flexibility, and you need to transfer that then into your other markets and into your other units which you have. And this is also a great training ground, so to say, for being really an internationally successful company and group. Then, of course, sustainability, everybody talks about it. Sustainability is in the products, in the companies, in the materials, and so on, factories, whatever. But it's also sustainability of the family behind. We talk about reputation, we talk about sustainability, that they have the guarantee that that company will be there for longer than if they think the asset they're working for is a financial asset. And it's not a financial asset. It's not there for disposal. It's there for the long term, and that is, I think, the guarantee of these entrepreneurial families. And perhaps, in these areas also, you have then to make sure that where you are in the international, we have nearly 40 locations in the world, you have to be a good citizen there. And this you also learn in Europe, because if you don't show sort of regional responsibility in the odd places where we are, I mean, in valleys and so on. I mean, there you feel the responsibility, of course, but you have to grow that this good position or this good attitude as a good civilian abroad, everywhere you are. So in the end, it's, I think, what we have to create is a platform for all our companies that we are close to the customer, we follow them, and in each of those factories and companies, people, entrepreneurial, and really proud to work there.
Thanks, Cornelius. Georg, your company Kapsch originally produced telegraph devices, telephones, radios. Meanwhile, you became a top player in niche markets for intelligent transportation systems and carrier solutions. So how are you doing the segmentation of markets to be active in, or to how to develop them?
Okay, well, thank you. Basically, I have to admit that we are sometimes a bit biased between tradition and look into the future. And I personally don't really care about what the past was all about, and I don't care about tradition, although I admit that I try to make the good things from the past survive. Because that's about culture, that's about corporate culture. But if you address a global enterprise, you have different cultures. And you have to try to integrate these cultures. But these cultures will never be the same. And you always have to mitigate between them. Therefore, you need a certain number of corporate values that are applied. And I don't know, I think you said that a Swede is not Romanian, and I can tell you, Bulgarian, sorry, a Bulgarian, and I can tell you a Swede is not an American, and an Austrian is not an American. We just think that we are so similar to the Americans, but this is a huge mistake. So coming back to what you were asking, what I do is, and I'm convinced that this is the right way, one has to reinvent the own company every 10 to 15 years. If you don't reinvent your company, you're stuck in the past. So what are our main criteria by reinventing the company? What are we doing? How are we analyzing the world market? First, we are looking for megatrends. What megatrends are coming up? What can we see on the horizon? And megatrends, we think megatrends are trends that last longer than about, we think, no one knows in advance, but we think that they will last for more than 20 years. That's the first. Second is that we are looking for fragmented markets. We will never ever enter a market segment which is completely consolidated, although at my times at INSEAD I learned that consolidated markets are the best markets in the world. I can't follow that, but I know the arguments for that. And,
the blue ocean.
Because what we like to do, and in that way I'm coming back to consolidated markets, we try to consolidate the market ourselves. Therefore, we are addressing fragmented markets. We are looking for global niches because we can't in any way, and I think Cornelius, you already addressed that, we can't compete with the big multinationals who have their sales network all around the world, who have their R&D network all around the world, and who have the financial capabilities. So that's a no-go, an absolute no-go for us. So we are looking for market niches which are not yet occupied by big multinational companies. This is the third prerequisite. The next one is we are looking for technology. Although we transformed our company over the last 15 years from a manufacturing company, we had 2/3 of our employees 20 years ago in manufacturing. Currently, we just have, I'd guess, 5% in manufacturing, which are located in Austria, and the other plant is in Canada, close to Toronto. So we transformed the company to an engineering and operations company, because we think that this is the better way for us in intelligent transportation systems in order to reduce the volatility of our business. And what we try to do is either to provide the entire value chain to the customer, or to be at the top of the value chain, because if you're in the middle or in the lower part of the base of the value chain, the threat of being substituted is very high.
I think this was a very clear statement, and even the professors here would support this. Yeah, I think we had a very good panel before lunch where the digitalization was really shown, yeah, on some good examples. You coming from more traditional kind of industries, how you are seeing digitalization? Is it a threat to your business? Is it a chance of optimization? Is it a chance of strengthening your relationship to your customers? Maybe we can have a second round, and Wolfram, would you start?
At the beginning, this is something you don't expect, that these companies, as they were presented this morning, come into your market, which is a well-established market, but all of a sudden they come, they find business models that are incredible. We've been shortly talking about Uber, that has not the best image, but they think in parcel service of similar models. So there are things coming up which you have not expected, and speed has increased so much. So I believe it is a big opportunity also for established companies, because we have the resources, we can look at different things, we can try to choose, but we have to be very careful to be able to bring our people up to speed, because big organizations are not that flexible. And I'm a little impressed, Georg, what you said, that you're reinventing the company every 10 to 15 years. This is a very difficult thing to do, especially because a lot of your customers are not doing this. I mean, if you're an established business environment. So for our business, I see it on both ends. On one end, we still have the same competition as we had 300 years ago. So Turn and Taxis, which were the National Post of Germany, is now DHL, which is the Federal Post of Germany, and they are still having the same practices. And on the other end, we have some very innovative small companies in technology that are kind of getting into our market.
Okay, Pete?
Well, of course, obviously it can be an opportunity, but for us it was already a threat. But let me start with the opportunity. In our case, and we are engineering and manufacturing metal parts, quite sophisticated metal parts, but still stupid metal parts. And the question is, how can you produce them with talking machines in a more efficient way? How do you increase performance, productivity with that? On the other hand, it's also how can you add value with all this big data thing that we give an additional advantage for our customers. For instance, if you tell a big ship provider that the engine bearing is going to fail in 1,000 hours and that you rather get it exchanged, this can help, because otherwise he changes every 1,000 hours, and this doesn't make sense. That it can be a threat we experienced 1 year ago because we had a huge cyber attack in one of our plants in the United States. So it can also happen to medium-sized companies as we are, and it was literally stolen $5 million from our bank account. So this was a threat, and we have not received the money back till now.
Cornelius, how can you top this story about the stealing of 5 million euros?
I'm not aware. I think one has to differentiate between digitalization inside your company and digitalization in contact with your customers. We also do these sort of, as you say, I find them highly sophisticated, these metal pieces. You find them relatively simple. I think, we had always very close contact with our customers. And of course, big data is, and Industry 4.0, and everybody talks about it. So the thing is, how can you really do it in reality? And also, we are not normally B2B and rarely B2C. We do Schleichwerbung. We do, for instance, a fantastic roofing system, Prefa, And we, for instance, have very conservative customers. So when you tell them by now, you know, we have only digital contact with you, that's difficult because he would like to have a phone call and not even an email or something. So, but on the other hand, if you have all those data, perhaps the whole structure of distribution is going to change. So wholesalers will question mark. Even the people who use or who produce or apply our, for instance, roofing system, they will have to change because we will have all the data and we will sort of direct where to go. But the last thing I wanted to, another thing or last thing into this, the attitude of the people, as you say, Wolfram, is of course very difficult because they were used to do it their way, you know? Therefore, what we do, we create small teams of very young guys outside of the company, and they start basically their own thing, and then contribute to the conservative, so to say, structures, what has to be done in the digital world.
May I add that the working environment at Cornelius, it's very entrepreneurial. I had the privilege to work for 3 years selling wine glasses in Asia. And the good thing at Cornelius, if you're an employee, you do not have one task assigned, but 3 to 4. So you do not get bored. And I think I like it, but you know, it's an entrepreneurial spirit. And either you like it or you don't like it, but you can, on your personal strength, you can do a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Georg, you mentioned the digitalization before. Are you doing this kind of optimization in your company, or are you using outside services for that?
Well, my company never was a traditional company in traditional industries because the philosophy of the company was always enter new market segments and as soon as they become a traditional industry, exit it. And that's what we did over the last 120 years. So we are at the other side because we are always, and that's the only continuity in our business. We are dealing with information and communication. And so we are a bit on the other side because we are the suppliers and the providers of the equipment and the services and the platforms that enables industries to digitalize their value chains from the supplier side to within the operation of the company, the manufacturing itself, to the consumer. So that's what we provide, and of course we are using it ourselves as well.
Okay, so we could draw a line under this part of the discussions by stating that obviously it's not disruptive yet. No? Let's put it this way, it's a challenge, yeah? Of course it's also opening up opportunities, but still it's not a disruptive challenge for your business models as you have developed it over the last years. We have mentioned before also the question regarding long-term orientation, stability, family-owned businesses as part of the characteristics of Mittelstand. Is the question of access to equity an issue in one of your companies, or is that not an issue in the years, let's put it this way?
Not for me.
Not for me.
Not for us either. As a matter of fact, we have been on the stock exchange in Vienna for 30 years with non-voting shares, and we are just taking our company private now because of different reasons. But we want to grow with earning cash flow beforehand, and frankly speaking, in this respect, we are very risk averse. We have an equity ratio of close to 60%, and we also have a net credit and not a net debt. Had I followed, let's say, all the recommendations in my business classes, of course not at INSEAD, that is cheap and equity is expensive, we probably would not have surfed through the 2008, 2009, and 2010 challenges that well. So maybe it's a little bit more costly, but you can sleep better and you are more independent and not dependent on banks that much.
Cornelius.
I didn't understand your question because are you asking if you have easy access for debts, or are you asking if I would like to sell equity? I don't know.
No, the question mark is if you can finance your growth
Yes,
and your
it's okay.
business as easily,
Yes,
or if there are constraints.
It's never easy because, you know, with banks it's never easy. But yes, it's not a problem.
Okay.
Sorry, I also got the question wrong. I thought you asked if we would exit over the capital market. And
No, it was
this is why I said no, but
because there's a debate if there's not enough access to capital in these years in our area, and I just wanted to address the issue for this kind of companies. So obviously also in your case, no problem here.
no problem. Yes, there is. I always think it's a little dangerous when you get a lot of money. You have to find reason to invest it somewhere, and it could mislead you somewhere. So this is what probably at
Also
least I
quite
have
a
seen.
conservative attitude.
So we have a very conservative attitude. Our equity ratio is more like with Miba.
Well, I'm partly in the project business, and therefore I need project financing. And for project financing, you need a certain debt equity ratio. And in order to finance growth, and one of my subsidiaries grew from 20 million in the year 2000 to about 500 million euros right now. So we had to finance that, and therefore we IPO'd the business, but we retain about 62%. So we are not really on the capital market, although we have fully voting shares. So there is no differentiation. But if I could afford, I would delist the company as well.
Well,
But not because of the shareholders. This is not my prime problem. Because of the financial market regulations, because of the of corporate governance, of compliance issues, which are really crazy in Europe.
okay, so if we take this statement of the president of the Austrian industrialists, you know what is going on in this country, which might also raise a lot of questions regarding for the companies in which kind of environment they can work and be successful. I've seen in the records that we are talking about 130, 150 really hidden champions in Austria, companies who are market leader or at least top notch on global markets, and they're really specialized in their niches. So our country is quite small. Still, it's very successful internationally. Can I just put the question here to the panelists? What has to change to make the environment even more favorable for companies like that?
I mean, you already put it in your question. The smaller country is, the more you're exposed to other countries. And I think, I mean, Austria is, ever since after the First World War, became a small country. And all the companies in this country were forced to deal international at a very early stage. It was discussed already in the panel this morning, the last panel. I mean, if you're in the US, you have this massive amount of customers in one market. So also I see this for our company, that we have a lot of people that are exposed to international business, and so it was easier to grow international, and there's a lot of expertise here for this. The area here in Central and Eastern Europe probably is the area with the most dense number of countries, and even though we talk about one European market, there is cultural language differences and so on. Not only in breakfast, which I learned this morning also, but in a lot of the way they do business. And I think the challenge is, yes, it is. We have the culture, we know how to get abroad, but how do you manage to get the corporate culture in your new subsidiary abroad? The further away, the more difficult. And we have to accept that this is always going to be a combined culture. We cannot impose our culture 100% there, because it's always going to be, Chinese for Adelberg combination. but at least you have to manage to bring your core company values to your subsidiaries abroad in order to be successful. But I think the basis is there, the people are there, we speak languages, and we are used to deal internationally.
Peter, maybe you can take this question regarding the culture. Is the culture something which you are focused on in Miba?
Yes, I mean, the corporate culture, and I would argue every company has its values, but the question is how do you live it and how can you keep it simple? Yeah? And for us, one of the critical things is entrepreneurship. And not entrepreneur for maybe the entrepreneur or the owner, but for all of our more than 5,000 people. And just to give you 2 examples, customer-centric, we heard this afternoon already, you know, focus on the customers and take all the excuses from your people internally that they are not able to be out at the customers because of any kind of meetings or coordination things. It is critical, and one of our customers, it was already 10 years ago, he told us that there is a small company in Styria which is in the coating business and that this could be interesting technology. And at the end of the day, we frankly speaking, we didn't know that much about it, but we purchased the company. At that time, it was a €1 million company. And it was actually assigned to one individual at us, where we thought he was young, not even 30 years old, where we thought, okay, he can do it. And it was his baby, it still is his baby, and he really made it today to around 20 million euros. And if you give these tasks and chances and opportunities, of course with certain boundaries, but not that much of boundaries to someone to really be entrepreneurial, I think this is the success. And so it does not necessarily have to be, I mean, in my case, yes, I'm a family member and I'm running the business, but together with 3 other board members, and I'm the only person from the family involved. But if you have this also feeling and conviction in the company that you can be an entrepreneur even in the family business, then I think you can bring both the 2 good things of both worlds together. Family business as far as longevity, long-term approach, also that there is a person or a family behind who thinks long-term, with also the other thing not to get complacent or that it is a dodgy business where only family members make all the decisions and run the show. And maybe last comment, I'm convinced that the family business structure is the more successful than other kind of structures, with one big disadvantage and caveat. This is how can you bring it to the next generation? And there is no, how shall I say, recipe of success. And but if it is somehow managed in a good way, then with all the things what we also heard of Professor, I think it can have advantages versus maybe public companies.
Cornelius, can I put the question to you in a different form by saying if there's a culture of success, how you are handling the culture of failure in your business activities?
We actually, I have to say, we actually don't have a culture of failure. I mean, we don't have a culture of failure.
I think no one is surprised here.
I mean, I don't want to even mention that or distribute that sort of in our group. But if there is failure, okay, it has to, sometimes, of course, it happens, not a second time. But I mean, failure is something which you have to accept because nobody, and so. But I would like to come back for a moment to the cultural situation. I believe it's very difficult if you have a family business, okay, we do 1.6 billion, but each company is doing 50, whatever. And these entrepreneurs who are running these okay, they are managers, but they have a very entrepreneurial, they have to have their own culture. If they are not allowed to have their own culture, they are not entrepreneurs. I mean, then, you know, you cannot really expect anything like driven by growth or really dedicated to succeed.
Okay.
Because they have to do it their way. And this is sometimes a bit of a difficult situation because you shouldn't lose, of course, them going into directions you can't follow anymore or something. So, but they have to have their own culture, and this is carried along by culture in common, but their own. That is, for me, very
Are
important.
you doing group conferences over the year? Are you bringing your leading management together from all the different activities?
do.
How often are you doing this a year?
I'm Swabian, therefore by origin, so not
They
too
have
often.
to pay,
Not
they
too
have to
often.
pay for themselves.
Not too often, but we normally do it once a year
Okay.
for all of them, and in the groups we do it about twice a year.
Okay. Georg, culture.
Well, we have a slightly different approach. So we try to have the same basic cultural requisites all around the world. So, these are corporate values which fit, which we are convinced fit to each and every ethical group and even religion. Although I personally don't care about religion. So, each and every employee who is onboarding receives a cube which he can play with, and the cube consists of our corporate values like freedom, transparency, discipline, family. It's 6 values, and we think that these values are the common platform for communication between the different entities and cultures. And I think one has to make a core decision when trying to be a global company. Either you decide to be an international company or you decide to be a global company. And there's a huge difference. And we decided to become a global company because if you are an international company, you have a headquarter, and the headquarter tells you, tells all the subsidiaries around the world what they have to do. If you're a global company, you are much more diversified, and the competences are distributed, and the accountabilities and responsibilities are distributed around the world. And that's the approach we use. I don't know if it's the right approach, but I like it. I simply like it.
Okay, I think this is one of the most important things. If managers are not liking what they are doing, they are doomed anyway. Yeah. Therefore, can I just use this chance also, if you have a wish to the government to enhance policies regarding entrepreneurial activities in these countries or in the region, what would you pitching for?
Well, that's twofold. It's the European Union and it's the Austrian government. And in the end, you can't distinguish. Okay. I think we should put much more power to the European Parliament, to the European Commission, but in that case, we should have better people there. Okay. So that's. And what's about the framework? I think the only framework that could really help us to succeed in the global competition is freedom. Freedom, freedom, and freedom. And the European Union was designed as a peace, deregulation, and liberalization project. We are, and that applies for Austria as well, we were never ever before that much regulated as we are today. So this is a huge pity. On the other hand, for the Austrian government, of course, please save the money, don't hate austerity, because it's proven that those countries who save their money, who have lowered public debt, are on the long term those countries with higher growth rates. This is evident. And for the Austrian government, it's about changing labor laws it's about changing taxation, and it's about reducing the proportion of the state in connection with the GDP. So the GDP quota of the state is much too high in Austria. And this has a negative effect on growth.
Okay, Cornelius, you know you're a free man, as Georg was demanding, so you're not caring about governments at all, or do you have a wish list for government?
We are all exposed, of course, because there are regulations and so on, and it's in Austria, I mean, there are many Austrians. It's good to know the people, and it's good to know them before you need them. I mean, that's very important.
Yeah.
So this is a kind of an investment attitude you are having here.
So, I mean, we don't sell much to the government, so we don't sell much, and they don't create much, sort of many jobs also. But I'm not as negative with regard to politicians on a European level as you are, because we should always not, I mean, you are doing something very actively, but we all should not complain, we should do more for it.
Yes.
So it is a question of quality of people, then rather contribute and be there. I mean, you do a lot, and sometimes I wonder how you can combine your job and your positions. But it's really, I really admire, and many more people should do that. I have to say mea culpa also.
Join me. Join me.
Maybe Peter and Wolfram, because you're representing the young generation also, yeah? Do you think that we need more Europe? More Europe?
Yes, I think in some areas we need more Europe. If we think about, well, big topic these days, refugees. Can't be done only country by country wise. I also think, following what Georg said, you know, as an entrepreneur and as businesses, we need freedom. There is a soccer field, of course, and there has to be certain rules. But, you know, sometimes we are set how we shall play, how many meters in which height the soccer ball to the next player. That's a little bit too much. And what I also want to stress is, you know, if you talk to people, not exclusively in Austria, but also somewhere else, and if you say, okay, what do you have? I mean, we are still in the first half of the World Innovation Index, and as far as education is concerned, it's a very static point of view. Yeah, we have been much better. I'm talking now about Austria some 10 years ago. And then if you talk to people and say, okay, we are still in the first half, that's very short-minded. So invest today in education, and also invest in research and development, that also in 5 or 10 years from now, we are still at the same position, or maybe again a little bit better. I think this is highly critical, and this is also a far-sighted approach and need what also shall be done by politics.
Well, from you coming from Vorarlberg, this is almost like Schwaben, very close already. Yeah? From your point of view, do we need more Europe or not?
More Europe, but we need less regulations. Europe cannot be an additional layer. We really have to get rid of many, many layers below, and all these regulations are hindering us in doing business. We talked about freedom. We need to have the entrepreneurial spirit. This has to come back to people. I don't think it became a safer world through all these regulations we are facing, knowing how to play our ball and so on. It is really, we are really tied in. And perhaps I'd like to add one more wish, so to speak. We talk here about the advantages of the Mittelstand, of small and medium-sized businesses, but I believe they don't have really a political voice. So nobody speaks up for them. And you know, we say this is the backbone of Europe, this is the backbone of this area, also this country. But you know, politicians don't really care. They have some CEO of big corporates that talk to them, and they try to please them, but they don't really look into what are the necessary things for this group of businesses. And I think this is extremely important because this is the backbone of Europe.
Okay, I think we are coming to an end now. I think we managed to have a broad range of topics addressed, coming from the core business of your activities to the mega trends like digitalization, the question of culture for our region, because if we are a small country, we are by definition forced to go out and to be successful there. And also that regulation for a small country can be very hindering. And if we are getting more Europe, it should be more Europe with less regulation, not adding up regulation. Otherwise, people will be stuck. Thank you all for your attention and all the best.